What is going on, Raider Nation? It's your boy Simone Raider, back at it again with another video and another episode of Nation Take, where I take some of your takes and talk about it in a video. And you guys have been killing these videos, and I know that you guys actually enjoy it because you guys have been smashing that like button. And in the last video, I asked you guys if we hit 1,000 likes, then I'll come out with another Nation Take on Friday, which I'm doing today. And you guys killed that in only a matter of hours. And the video is sitting at a mere 1.9 thousand likes, and man, I couldn't thank you guys enough because those really help out your boy, and it shows that you guys actually enjoy this type of video, which is why I'm doing another video. Now, if you guys are wondering how you can get your take on the next episode, I will be putting out a community post for Monday, which will be the next episode of Nation Take, and all you have to do is just comment your take down in the comments below in the community post, not the video, just to make that clear. And I take some of my favorite takes from you guys and talk about it in a video. Now, since you guys actually killed the 1,000 like goal, let's see if we can hit 2,000 likes on this video. If you guys are coming across my channel for the very first time, and this is the first time you actually watched my video, and you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification icon button just to notify you guys when I upload more videos just like this. I post a lot of Raider content. Well, I post only Raider content on a weekly basis, and we are on the verge of 25,000 subscribers on the channel, so help your boy out and hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get started with this episode of Nation Take.
And you tell them one thing: just win, baby.
Now, the very first take comes from Travis Lee. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. His take is, Jason Witten becomes our tight end coach. Now, this is a good take because I haven't even talked about this, but earlier this week, Frank Smith left the Raiders to go join the LA Chargers as their new offensive line / tight end coach. Now, this really sucks because he was a really good coach in the tight end room. We know how good he is because he played a big part in Darren Waller's success as a tight end, being one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in the NFL today. And he has also done a good job in the development of Foster Moreau as that number 2 tight end on the team. Now, with Frank Smith gone, we do not have a tight ends coach. And that is where Jason Witten's name has been brought up. A lot of people have been talking, and a lot of reports have been going around bringing up Jason Witten as our new tight ends coach. Now, the big question is if he wants to retire and if he wants to be a coach after he retires. Obviously, he didn't do a good job on the Monday Night Crew, but being a coach, I believe that he would be a good coach, especially if he wanted to be the Raiders coach. I don't think the transition would be that bad because he already has a rapport with these young tight ends, and I believe that's the reason why John Gruden brought him on, is to be that veteran presence for Darren Waller, Foster Moreau, and he already knows what John Gruden wants out of these young players. I believe if Jason Witten did want to be our tight ends coach and retired, I think there's a good possibility we see him as our next tight end coach. But as of right now, like I said, I would have to sell the take because I don't see it happening unless some things happen down the road. But Raider Nation, let me ask you guys, would you guys want Jason Witten to be our new tight ends coach for the team if he was to retire and be interested in the job? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, moving on to the next take. This one comes from Cesar Avila. Cesar? I think it's Cesar. Cesar Avila. So you really think the Raiders will re-sign Nelson Agholor? If not, which wide receiver do you think could be a good replacement in free agency? That's a good question, Caesar, or Cesar. I said this before in my last video, and I'll say it again. I want Nelson Agholor back on the team. That rapport that he's built with Derek Carr has been A1, and he has been one of the most underrated signings in last year's free agency, and it paid off in a good way for the Raiders. Now, the biggest question would be how much we would pay him to bring him back. It was rumored that the deal would be around 2 years, $14 or $15 million, which would put him at $7 million a year. And I would be okay with that. Now, there has been another report that came out since then that he might be asking for $11 million a year. And if that is the deal, I don't see us bringing him back. As badly as the Raiders would want to have him back, for that price, I don't think the Raiders would actually budge and sign him. Now, there has been 2 big names out there throughout the Raider Nation. One has been Allen Robinson, which I don't understand. Yes, he would be a great addition to the team, and he would be that number 1 receiver on the team, a great talent, but he would cost a lot of money as well. $20 million a year. I think that's around the price that he might be asking for, would be upwards of $16 to $20 million a year. At that point, why don't we just re-sign Nelson Agholor? Another name that's been brought up has been Kenny Golladay. Now, I don't think that he's going to be as much as Allen Robinson because he's coming off of an injury-ridden season. If we can get him for the right price, I think that would be another huge addition to the team. I believe that Kenny Golladay is that Julio Jones light. He's that Julio Jones-esque receiver, a big body receiver that we could bring in, be that number one on the team. Now, as for other names that I wouldn't mind bringing in that would cost less than $11 million, or if we don't bring in Nelson Agholor, one would be T.Y. Hilton. I believe he's one of the most underrated receivers in the league, and going into free agency, he's not going to be, the top dog like Kenny Golladay or Allen Robinson that a lot of people would want to go and clamor for. But T.Y. Hilton, I believe that we could get him for a good deal. Now, I know that T.Y. Hilton hasn't been the same player he once was. Most of that in due part is because Andrew Luck has retired. And you look at the quarterbacks that the Colts had since he's retired, Jacoby Brissett and Phillip Rivers, two players that really don't get the ball downfield like John Gruden and Derek Carr do with this offense. I believe that T.Y. Hilton can step in to this offense and be that player that Nelson Agholor played last year. And I believe that he's a better talent than Nelson Agholor. If you look back a couple of Pro Bowls ago when Derek Carr played and T.Y. Hilton played, they had a good chemistry out there, and I believe that he would be a good receiver for Derek Carr. Last season, he had 56 receptions, 762 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You add him to the Raiders, I believe that he'd be that number one receiver for the Raiders. Another name out there would be Will Fuller. Now, I know the big red flag with him is his injury history, but when he's on the field, he's one of those good players. He's one of the best receivers out there that can go out and be that home run hitter that Nelson Agholor was last season. We don't even need him to be our number one receiver. Henry Ruggs could be it, or Brian Edwards, but he can be another weapon out there for our team. A player that could take the top off of any defender out there and score a huge touchdown. Last season was solid for him. Even though he missed a couple of games, he had 53 receptions, 879 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Again, he wouldn't be as expensive as these other receivers. Another name that I'm going to bring up is Marvin Jones. Now, I know he's up there in age, about 30, 31 years old, but he's another big body receiver that is a solid weapon, and he doesn't have to come in and be our number one. He just has to come in and make plays for this team and could be a complementary piece to Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow, and he could be that solid 50-50 receiver in the end zone. Honestly, if we look back in history, he could be another receiver like Andre Holmes was for Derek Carr back in the days. If you guys all remember Andre Holmes, he was a baller as well. He had the height and could get those 50-50 balls. Pause. And last but not least would be Curtis Samuel. Now, he won't cost as much as all these other receivers, but he's a hybrid wide receiver that, John Gruden and Mike Mayock wanted Lynn Bowden Jr. to be on this team. He could play wide receiver, he could play running back, you name it. He can do it. If you look at last season's stats, he had 77 receptions for 851 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on the ground, he rushed 41 times for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, I know I've been rambling a lot about the wide receivers, but those are some names that I think that we could bring on if we don't re-sign Nelson Agholor. But Raider Nation, what wide receivers would you guys want to go get in free agency if we don't bring back Nelson Agholor? You know where to put your thoughts. Now the next take comes from Christian Vasquez. His take is, do you think the Raiders would want to sign Leonard Williams? I would have to say, hell yes, they would want to sign him. This is a guy that could come in and help bolster up this defensive line that we really need help in. And I do believe that Leonard Williams would be at the very top of the Raiders list for defensive linemen in free agency. I know last season we brought in Malik Collins, who really didn't work out at all this season, but it was a good thing that we brought him in for a 1-year deal, and I don't think that he's going to come back at all. Now, personally, I have wanted Leonard Williams all the way back since the draft season when he voiced his desire to be a part of the Raider Nation. We know that he's a big fan of the Raiders, and going into the 2015 draft, I wanted Leonard Williams to come onto this team and pair up with Khalil Mack. Obviously, we know that we went out and got Amari Cooper, and ever since then, I've been flirting with the idea of having Leonard Williams come to the team. Even when the Jets wanted to trade him away, I wanted him to be a part of the team. Now, going into 2021 under a new defensive coordinator and Gus Bradley, who did say that our defense starts up front and we build around that, I would say this would be the season I would want to go get him. This would be the perfect opportunity to go get him because he would be a tremendous upgrade on our defensive line, because we need a guy that could provide some pass rush and stop the run. And Leonard Williams checks off both of those boxes. Now, the biggest thing is Leonard Williams won't come cheap unless he gives us the Raiders discount. Know what I mean? Now I believe that's going to be the biggest burden on the team, whether we want to go out and pay him the amount of money that we know that he's going to be asking for, which will be around $15 to $20 million a year. He's going to be asking for some big bucks. And even if the Raiders do free up enough cap space, I don't know if we're going to want to blow most of our budget on one player to bring him onto the defensive line, even though we know that he'll help out tremendously. If you look at last year's stats, he had 29 solo tackles and a career high 11.5 sacks. As bad as I want Leonard Williams on this team, and how bad I know that Leonard Williams wants to be on this team, I would have to sell your take, and I don't think it's going to happen, because I think we're going to have to go into the draft and draft defensive linemen for this team, and maybe go get some cheaper veterans to come onto this team to play on the defensive line. But it would be nice. It would really be nice to have Leonard Williams on the team. Now, Raider Nation, again, what do you guys think about having Leonard Williams on the team? Would you guys go out and spend the big bucks to bring Leonard Williams onto the dark side in Las Vegas, or would you guys pass on it? Let me know down in the comments below. Now this next take comes from one of my good dudes, Sanjoku. If you guys are not subscribed to Sanjoku, he's another Raider YouTuber on YouTube, so go and subscribe to him. He does a lot of great live shows. But this is what he had to say. First off, he said, happy the show was a success. Great idea for a show. Again, thank you, Sanjoku. I appreciate that tenfold. Now his take was, with a true offseason and camp, we have a real QB competition this coming season. Now, I would have to agree with you. If we bring back Marcus Mariota, now we know how much money it's going to cost us to bring back Marcus Mariota for another season, but if he does come back to the silver and black for another season, I agree with you 100% that is going to be a real competition between Derek Carr and my cousin Marcus Mariota. It's going to be kind of tough, because it's hard for me to side with any one of these guys, because Derek Carr is my quarterback and has always been my quarterback since the day he was drafted in the second round. But Marcus Mariota, of course, it runs in the family. That's my oos, that's my cousin, that's my quarterback as well. But the biggest thing, the biggest plus that I would have to take away from this is we have two starting quarterbacks on the team, and we don't have to worry about any controversy. I don't think there's any controversy with these two quarterbacks. As far as competition, I believe that Marcus Mariota brings the best out of Derek Carr, and Derek Carr brings the best out of Marcus Mariota. And it feels good as a Raider fan to go into the season knowing if we were to have these two quarterbacks going into 2021, if anything was to happen to Derek Carr, hopefully not, but if anything was to happen to Derek Carr, we're in good hands like Allstate Insurance with Marcus Mariota, because Marcus, as we seen last season, even though he hasn't played a lot, we know one, Marcus Mariota is a very humble quarterback, and he knows that this is Derek Carr's team, and he's not going to cause any drama out there. He's a dual threat quarterback that can come in and be that starter for the team. We seen him in one game last season against the Los Angeles Chargers last season, and ball out. But as far as a real competition at the QB position, I would have to agree with you 100%, because I definitely think there's a good competition between Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. Now the last take of today's video. I know there was a lot of takes. I couldn't get to every one of them, but this one stood out to me because it was a bit of a bold take, if you were to ask me. It comes from Jason Marshall. His take was, Las Vegas Raiders sign Zach Ertz as a tight end, and let's move Waller to the wide receiver 1 X spot. Waller, 107 catches, 1,200 yards, make him more of a wide receiver mismatch, double team automatic. Ertz will come cheap, coming off of an injury, and solidified a wide receiver 1. Darren Waller, our Metcalf, and Foster and Ertz as our tight ends. Whew, that was a lot to take in. Now I'm gonna break it down. So what you're trying to say is we move Darren Waller to wide receiver, which that's the position that he came into the league as when he was drafted by the Ravens. And then we go and sign Zach Ertz on a veteran minimum, or for a very mere price, to pair him up as a dynamic duo with Foster Moreau. I actually like this take. Darren Waller, we all know, is a top 2, top 3 tight end in this league. He's a mismatch for a lot of linebackers and safeties out there. I mean, heck, anybody out there. He's big, he has the speed, and his routes are some of the best routes that I've seen from a tight end. Now, moving him to the wide receiver spot, that's a bit intriguing, to be that number 1. That means we wouldn't even have to go out and sign a wide receiver, or go out and a free agent, or even draft a wide receiver. He could be that number 1. Now, I know there's a lot of good cornerbacks in the league, but he stands above a lot of these cornerbacks. He literally could be our Julio Jones. As far as Zach Ertz, we know that his time with the Eagles is done. Last season was one of his worst seasons, mostly due in part because he was injured for most of it. He spent 8 seasons with the Eagles. He's been a 3-time Pro Bowler. In 11 games last season, he has only had 36 catches for 336 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, thinking about pairing up Foster Moreau and Zach Ertz would be a great dynamic duo at the tight end position. Foster Moreau, I believe, is one of the most underrated tight ends, especially on this team. And we've seen glimpses of Foster Moreau being a solid tight end for this team. And I know the pair of Darren Waller and Foster Moreau has been second to none, but you pair him up with Zach Ertz, I think we could make some magic happen on the team. So as far as your take, I would only have to sell this take only for the fact that I don't see this happening, because Darren Waller is our #1 tight end, and why would John Gruden and Mike Mayock want to move him to the wide receiver position? But just to have fun with the idea, I actually would like to see this happen. This is something that you would do on Madden. So, I mean, Raider Nation, what do you think about Jason Marshall's take? Would you guys want to move Darren Waller to the wide receiver position, bring in Zach Ertz for a cheap deal, and pair him up with Foster Moreau as our dynamic duo at the tight end position? I can't wait to see what you guys actually think about that. As you guys already know, drop it down in the comments below. All right, Raider Nation, that is all I have for you guys on this episode of Nation Take. I enjoy doing these a lot with you guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts on all these takes, like I said, in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, then smash that like button. Let's see if you guys can actually get this to 2,000 likes. That'd be probably the most likes that I've ever had on a video. But again, I like to give you guys the challenge, and you guys always come through. And again, if this is the first time you're watching this video, let's try to get to 25,000 subscribers. I want to try to hit it at least by next week. I know we can do it because I trust the Raider Nation. So with all that being said, Raider Nation, until the next video, this is your boy Samoa Raider, and your boy is yeah.
And you tell them one thing. Just win, baby.